Thank you and welcome to the show. I'm your host, John Block, and I hope you are thirsty because we've got the founders of Ape Beverages joining us today. Yes, I know, right? So it turns out that Ape Water has a lot going on under the hood, much more than just H2O. So you're going to want to listen in on the convo. Okay, before we get to the apes, can we talk about the elephant in the room? Well, not an elephant exactly, more like a small bird. Yeah, Twitter. What's going on, people? Now that Elon is at the helm, what can we really expect? I mean, that's a lot of change for one person in just 1 year, right? I mean, a new company for $44 billion, a new girlfriend, Natasha Bassett. She's the actress that played Britney Spears in the 2017 Britney Ever After film. I mean, is this all a sign? Is the writing on the walls? I mean, come on now. Britney's biggest hit songs were Toxic, Criminal, Baby One More Time, and the ever-famous Oops, I Did It Again. I don't know about you, but $8 just might not cover the bill on this one. That's enough about pop culture. Let's get to the show. Welcome to ROK the BLOK. I'm your host, John Block, and we are here today with the founders of Ape Beverages, Itai and Andrew. How you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks for having me.
Good, man.
Excellent. Thanks for making time, guys. I know you guys are both very busy, but let's get right into it. So how did you first come up with this idea for Ape Water?
Yeah, so Itai and I, we started business together during the pandemic. His background is consumer packaged goods. My background is entertainment and hospitality and music. And, just like all of us, we were trying to figure out where we sat in the world during such a inflection point. And we ended up creating a company together called American Bottling, where we were selling the excess supply chains of factories in America to produce sanitizer contracts. And it was exciting at first to find a way to help, in a time of great uncertainty. But at the same time, we also had an existential crisis because we realized we weren't in the sanitizer business, we were in the plastic business. And we didn't feel really good about that. And so earlier this year, specifically January 27th, we had the insight, and there was a lot of things along the way, to start a water company that was focused on addressing the Web3 community, the way Red Bull found a product market fit to address extreme sports. And we trademarked the word ape in the category of beverage non-alcoholic. And that was the initial inflection point to say, oh, wow, I think we have something here. And then we were off to the races from there.
Wow, yeah, that's really exciting. Very cool. And so, so when did you guys first hear about, blockchain, Web3, crypto? What was the story that kind of, opened up your eyes?
Yeah, sure. I first dived into crypto back in 2017 when I was at one of my previous careers, and one of my colleagues who sat side by side was deep in Bitcoin already in the early phase, and he was just trying to educate me on that. So I got a bit of a late start, but what an early start to some people would say. In 2017, when it was around 2000, got a bit excited, learned about it, wasn't sure what I was doing, got all my MetaMasks and all my bits and pieces put together. And then I kind of let it be. I'm a hodler. I'm not a big trader. I had too much going on in the real world for me to kind of conceive. And I'm still a big believer. Obviously, there's a roller coaster. Got the family involved, the whole thing. So definitely dove in there. And then Andrew really, got me educated. I was back in Australia back at the end of 2020 through COVID. Got put back went back to Australia. Got held back there. Wasn't all too bad, but I was definitely distant from the whole NFT community. I was reading about it, I was aware of it, but wasn't sure how big it was. And Andrew really brought me into the fold when his world around him in LA was literally thriving in the NFT space. So that's what he brought that to my attention. We started doing some research and saw that we're maybe too old to jump into the NFT space to hustle and do the trades. We don't really know what was the right way up, the right way down. We didn't want to take too many risks. We thought about it. And then we figured we'd sit our hat on working on the industry, not in the industry, and to kind of figure out how we can actually utilize the culture, like the kind of what you're influencing right now, of how we can build in the community, build around the culture, and build product that actually elevates the community at large. And that's where we landed on the water business.
Very cool. Very cool. Andrew, how about you? First time in, when did you hear about it?
Bitcoin, I dismissed it when it was at 300. I thought, oh, I missed the boat on that. And that was kind of my goalpost for a long time.
Yeah.
Until again, about 2017, around the same as Itai, when I started buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so I knew the power of blockchain. I just, 2017, you don't really receive the benefits of someone who was in it 2013. I know I was with someone the other day who was buying Ethereum at $2. When CryptoPunks hit 40K, I was like, missed the boat on that. I got it, but I missed the boat in CryptoPunks. I'm like, oh, well, it's the first, right? So of course it's going to have value as being the very first digital art on the blockchain. And I felt every other product was invalidated. You're either first or you're last. And then Bored Ape Yacht Club started to gain momentum, and I was dismissive as well. And I said, wait a minute, let me humble myself. There's something I don't know. And I didn't want to make the same mistake I made dismissing Bitcoin at 300. And at the same time, Itai and I were looking at a solution away from plastics. We had a passion that had developed for water. We were looking to do a water brand, and we figured, why don't we play to our strengths? And as to Itai's point, rather than being in Web3 in the traditional sense of choosing a project, I'm going to start hodling apes, assuming it wasn't cost prohibitive, or doodles, or all these other incredible projects. Why don't we be agnostic and figure out an offering that is playing to what we do and what we do best, and service the entire industry as a whole?
I feel the synergy there with you on that, thinking about the whole ecosystem. So it seems like, you guys are, have the possible industry model that you're setting up for this like IRL and NFT crossover. It seems like you guys are going that route, and it's very much a copycat industry. You guys feel like you're kind of trailblazing that space?
Yes, I want to be cautious with the words I use to pump our chest and declare we're the ones trailblazing, but we are doing something that no one else has done before, and we are doing a mass retail product. A lot of the other IP people have created with consumer packaged goods is based around cannabis or based around alcohol. Those things are fun categories, but they're limited. And we want to do something that we felt represents the true nature of Web3, and what better vehicle than water? We all need it at all in real life events. Water is required. So we just really were fortunate to recognize the power of attaching brand to a category that has been quite sleepy for a long time. Water has just always been viewed as luxury, single-use bottled water. And now the insight for us was, let's add community, which is the spirit of Web3, to the category of water. So in that respect, I believe we are the first, which is quite amazing, because that's very rare that you can kind of be in first position on anything, right?
Yeah, and even to layer on that as well, like the water's one, definitely a huge component, but also the way we're doing the licensing agreements. A first question everyone asks us is this our ape? And the first thing we're happy to really acknowledge that it's not our ape. And, some people may question that, but the insight that we got early on in our business was, if we just, like every other brand's doing, essentially they're highlighting their ape on a can or the ape on the product. That's cool for them because they're just benefiting their own business and their own IP. We're here to hero and celebrate other people's IP on the can and create that as the kind of, community building that we're doing. So we're not just me and Itai and Andrew's ape, it's the community's apes that we're highlighting, which is a different model to what other people have done in the past.
Yeah, and what I like too, that you are combining the NFT itself with the NFT holder. So let's talk about that relationship between the NFT and the NFT holder. Why is that important to you guys?
Sure. Well, it came as a byproduct of us having to determine, when we were raising money for the business, if we wanted to allocate part of the capital raised, because we didn't own an ape yet, towards the business, or if we wanted to be scrappy and redistribute that money towards other things. And so the key insight really was, out of necessity, was, well, we probably shouldn't use our own ape when there's 10,000 other apes out there. And then the insight was, those people are thought leaders. Those people are doing positive things for the world. You might as well derive the benefits of not just the IP, but also the recognition and audience of the individual holder. And so it just so happened to be the holder that's on the can is my next door neighbor. So, I didn't have to look too far to find an ideal suitor, and his name is Luca Metz. He's the CEO of Pudgy Penguins, which is another top PFP project, and he's done a lot of incredible things in respect to internet brand building. And so he's changed hundreds of people's lives in the most positive ways ever. So he's really an exemplary individual when it comes to being a thought leader and representing what Web3 is. And it just made so much sense to put him on the can, which then ultimately informed our business model.
That's really cool. So let's talk about collectibility. How does that work with your product and everything that you guys have going on with your ecosystem?
Sure. Well, the can itself is collectible. So they're all limited edition. And so we have created the first deflationary water product, because for every can that's open, the cans that aren't open conceptually would increase in value, right? Which also changes the relationship of water, because we dismiss how fortunate we are to have access to clean water. 1.3 billion people don't have access to clean water daily. So we take it for granted in the world we live in. And so the can itself is collectible. And then we're going to be also launching a subscription model too. If you're a member of the subscription for a year, or you pay up front, we have a bunch of Web3 collectible incentives, such as an NFT, access to Alpha List, access to merch. We have an entire merch company. Here's a Water t-shirt. So the collectibility starts to play out very similar to that of the Web3 IP brands that we're aware of. Just the in real life can creates that bridge between physical and digital.
Very cool. That's awesome. Any suggestions or tips as businessmen, as professionals working with IP and Web3 for anyone who's looking to do anything IP related?
If you're going into a business from a corporate side of it or a reality side, go play into your strengths. Don't try to be too tricky and smart. If you don't know the category industry, it takes a lot of learning to get something of quality out to the market. It's not as quick as you think. Even though we're doing water in a can, it's like, it's only water in a can. There are so many hoops and things, and just a lot of really, I don't want to say, just a lot of steps across, a lot of boxes to tick to get to that real execution. So do something you're passionate about, do something you really know or love or want to really know and love, because it becomes your life. Whether it's the IP's fun, it's actually the end product. It really is, the execution's everything.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, make sure you find your why, your reason for doing it. Ultimately, for us, we're creating Water DAO to secure water rights for future generations. That has nothing to do with the fun of the can. This is just a vehicle to create a Water DAO, which is something that really resonated with Itai and I, which we didn't touch on earlier. But that was a key motivator to doing this business, is because we feel water is truly undervalued, and we resonate with water being secured for future generations. And a lot of people get excited about the shininess of a new category where there's a lot of new wealth being generated, but not everything that glitters is gold. And most people don't succeed because they're doing derivative work. They're trying to take advantage of a trend, and that's never going to be fruitful long term. You might have a moment, but that's not the foundation to build a real long-term sustainable business. So you need to first determine, are you building something that you can see yourself working in for the next 25 plus years, or is it a turn and burn hustle? And I would advise highly against ever doing that in the Web3 space, because it's all about community. So make sure you're being incredibly authentic when you decide to enter the Web3 space.
That's great advice, gentlemen. You were saying that the Water DAO, project drives this, right? So that's the impetus behind this. So give me a quick overview of the Water DAO. What's your vision for this Water DAO project? Well,
our value proposition, we speak to venues or events to carry our water is, well, what's your current solution? 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100 is going to be a plastic solution. Well, we're a sustainable business. We're we're focusing initially on the United States. So we're all American supply chains. Our water is award-winning. It comes from one of the best natural springs in the world. So we start checking all the boxes. The Web3 thing comes second. So the foundation is the efficacy of the product and sustainability, and then aligning with brands that want to be proactive in the sustainability message as well. So that's step one, to get them to opt in and do education. Step two is our Web3 component. We say it's the most fun you could have for under $2. And then from there, we now have the audience captive to educate. And that's when we start to educate about the Water DAO, start educating people on what water rights even is. Most people don't know that the majority of the water that is accessible today has been privatized by monolithic organizations that are only optimizing for quarterly returns. And so it's not owned by the people, right? It's owned by the system. And there's no villains in this. It just happens to be the way corporate America works, right? Where they're not really thinking of the long-term implications of what it means to create and maximize quarterly revenue earnings now, right? So through the fun of the can, we start to create this adoption process to start to educate people. And then ultimately, the end goal being is the community will acquire the water assets and will be owned by the people, which is really exciting.
That's really cool, guys. I want to thank you for taking time to chat with us today about Ape Water. And this is really cool because just looking at the can, unless we actually opened it and took a sip, we never would have known what the story was about. So thank you both for sharing your story with us today. And we'll keep an eye out for more things completely ape going down.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
Lowkey Giant.